You ever feel like you're saying the same thing over and over again, but it's still not getting done the way you had hoped? Or you feel like you've been clear and the outcome is just not what you've expected? Well, today that's exactly what I'm talking about. I want to walk you through what I call the communication signal check. And this is 5 questions that you ask yourself. And it is going to help you determine if communication is breaking down. And I'm going to give you one simple action step for each one that you can take. It's not a whole lot of work, but there's some real easy ways you can determine if there's ways that you could firm up your communication. Welcome to Leveraging Operations and Leadership. This is the show that bridges the gap between how your business runs and how you show up as a leader. And I am your host, Tonya D, Harrison, founder of Cignal Partners. If you've ever said the words, we have a communication problem, or maybe I have a communication problem, this is the episode that is for you, and we are going to determine if you truly have a communication problem or not. And I wouldn't say problem. There are things that we could all do better when it comes to communication. And from one leader to another, I just want to say this. It's not always you. But we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do as a leader to make sure our communication is clear. But sometimes it's not a fit, and we have to acknowledge that as well. All right, I just had to say that because sometimes we put it all on us, and it's not always on us. Sometimes it's just not, it's a misalignment, and that is okay as well. We just have to fix it. Like I mentioned earlier, I want to talk to you about some questions that you can ask yourself and some steps that you can take to kind of audit if there's things that you can do better. And this does not require a team of 10 to show up. These are things that can show up with a contractor that you brought on. It can show up with a business partner. It can show up the first time that you actually hand something off and it comes back wrong. And your first thought is, I guess I have to do it myself. And that is where we do not want to go, because that defeats the whole purpose. So before you decide that this is a misalignment or you need to do it yourself or whatever the case may be, I want you to run through these 5 points. Each one pairs with a question with one thing that you can do this week. It's not even something that's going to take you an entire quarter to do. Signal 1 is clarity. Now, this one, we say it and people think that they are clear, but sometimes we're not as clear as we think we are. And this really is about whether expectations are actually defined and not just assumed. If done only lives in your head, and I've said this before, and I want to say done right according to your standards, only live in your head, then every handoff is a guess. And we don't want people guessing, and we don't want people having to come back to us 5 times to ask us how this needs to be done. So clarity is going to help you in a lot of ways. It is going to, number one, is going to free you up, and is going to free up the person that you're talking to, because they're going to be clear in terms of what it is that you do. This week, one of the things that I want you to do is pick your most repeated tasks and review the process if you have a written process. If you do not have a written document, I want you to write a 1-line definition of what done right looks like. And this is so important that this is something that I added to my policy and procedure template. There is a section where we have to indicate what it looks like. If this is done well, or if this is done right, what does it look like? In one sentence, not a paragraph, okay? So that is your takeaway for this. If you want to know if you are clear, pick your most repeated tasks, and you can either go to the process if you have it documented, and then you're going to assess it if people know what to do. Or If you don't have a documented process, and it is what it is, you are going to write a one-line definition of what done right looks like. Okay, so that is signal number one. Signal number two is about rhythm. This is about whether communication is built in a routine. And one of the things that I want to say about this is we have to be careful, because we don't want to have meetings just for the sake of having meetings, but we do want to have a cadence built in. We don't want to get to the point where we're only talking to people when things are not going well, or when we have something that's not good to say. You want to have that already built in. And this allows you to have those check-in points on a regular basis, so people know what they're doing, how they're doing along the way, not only when they're doing something wrong, but also when they're doing something right. And that's what these recurring check-ins allow. And the other caution that I would make is only schedule it for the time that's needed. If an hour is not needed, don't schedule it for an hour. Schedule it for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it takes, but be realistic in the time that it takes. Don't try to stretch it out. Make it for what it is and keep it on point. And then if there is 1 week that you don't need it, then you can cancel it. I wouldn't go week after week canceling the meeting. But here and there, things are going to come up. If you need to cancel it, you cancel it. But rhythm is extremely important. People know what to expect. They know what's going to happen during that session. They can bring things. So if this is a project status update, they already are prepared. They know that they need to bring the update about where they are, what's going on. And it gives them an opportunity to ask any questions. It gives you an opportunity if you need to redirect or anything like that. So rhythm is signal number two. The third signal is access. And this is about whether your team can find the answers on their own. We don't want our team to be dependent on us. When I say team, I don't care if it's one person. You don't want them to be dependent on you to have to get answers. Make sure they have access to whatever it is. Make sure that they have access to find the answers on their own, so they don't have to come through you. This is not something that you want to guard. You want people to have access to the things that they need in order to do the best job possible, and so that you can show up and do the best job possible instead of being the one to answer all the questions. Again, if that is where you're positioning yourself, then you're probably not ready to have a team. You're probably not ready to have people working with you. So this week, what you can do is you can identify one question that you have been asked and make sure that you put that answer in a place that's findable. And if the answer is already somewhere out there, you want to make sure that the right people have access to it and that they know where to find it. Okay, so that is signal number three, access. Signal four is feedback. And this is about whether people learn how they are doing along the way. You don't want them to know when it becomes a problem. And this applies to contractors just as much as employees, W-2 employees. If the only time a contractor hears from you is to approve or reject a finished deliverable, they're getting outcomes, not feedback. So you want to let people know along the way, right? Are the people doing work for you, employees and contractors included, hearing how they're doing before it becomes a problem? And this can be as simple as when you are in a meeting talking about a scope update, project update, check-in, however you label it. During that meeting, you could share, this is exactly what I expected. This is going extremely well. I love that we're hitting the deadlines, whatever it is. But you could give that feedback then. This week, give a piece of feedback. If you find that you're not giving feedback, give a piece of feedback this week, right? So if you're already having your check-in meetings, you can do it then. If not, you want to go ahead and schedule that and get that rhythm going, like we talked about in the other signal. But during that time, that's a great opportunity to share something with them. And again, it doesn't have to be negative. All right. The last signal 5, is about trust. And this is one that I think is just like clarity. When we started strong with clarity, that is huge. We're ending strong with trust. If you do all of the things, the other signals that we talked about, it's going to position you in a good place. But this one is about what your communication style actually produces in people. And I think about Maya Angelou when she said that people will forget, and this is paraphrasing, people will forget what you said and what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And again, I don't care if you're working with W-2 employees or contractors, people will never forget how you made them feel. So you want to make sure that when you are communicating, that you are building people up, that they're coming out of it with confidence. You don't want to create hesitation where they don't know that they can talk to you. They don't know that they can come to you. So you have to decide what your communication style looks like, but you always want to make sure that you are doing it in a way that is positive. Even when you're sharing information that may not be great information, you may be telling someone about something that they did that was incorrect. It's not a personal attack. It's about the work, and it's about helping people to get better and to grow to the next level. So you want to make sure that that comes through in your communication. Aside from that quote, there's also a scripture in the Bible that is Colossians chapter 4, verse 6. And it talks about making sure that your speech is always with grace and seasoned with salt. So you want it to be palatable so that you know how you ought to respond to each one. And these are some things that I keep in mind when I'm thinking about how I communicate and how I talk to people, because I feel that communication, number one, is one of the strongest skills that we can develop. It's one of the best skills that we could have. And it is one of the things that we can do. To me, it is one of the ways that we can support other people through our communication, through uplifting people, even when what we're saying may not be the best information, but it's how you say it, and it's the intent behind it. The intent is about helping someone grow, helping somebody get to the next level. So think about it in that terms. But those are the 5 signals when we're talking about communication. So I am just going to looking at my notes so I can run through each one again. Signal 1 is about clarity, and this is huge. That's why I say we started strong. Signal 2 is about rhythm, having a cadence for how often you meet. Signal 3 is about access, making sure that they know where to find the answers. Signal 4 is about feedback, providing that feedback along the way instead of just at the end of a project. And signal 5 is about trust. All right, those are the 5 different signals. And of course, we're not trying to fix all the things at one time, but if you found that there are 2 or 3 areas that you're like, yeah, maybe I can firm that up, I can enhance that, then just pick one that you're going to do and pick one action item from the list that you're going to work on. And then every week you can pick something else. And the one that is bothering you the most, the one that glared at you the most, that is the one that's costing you the most right now. So you want to focus on that and then just kind of prioritize them and go down the list. If more than one of these, like I said, if more than one of these hit home, that is usually a sign that that the gap is not just communication. It could also be a operational foundation underneath it. So when we're talking about clarity, it could be something that needs to be in your processes. So make sure that you are kind of thinking about that as well. I also have a leadership shift assessment that will help you. It is 12 questions. It'll take you 2 to 3 minutes. And by answering these questions, you're going to get feedback and understand precisely where you are and what to focus on next. So you can go ahead and take that. I'm going to drop that in the notes. And that is it. So thank you for spending time with me. If this episode named something for you, if something stuck out, be sure to share it. Be sure to leave a comment. And then also be sure to give us a review. And then until next time, make sure that you are leading on purpose.